Okay, I think we can start, no? It's 12:30, so hello everyone and welcome to the... Okay, people are still joining, I will let them in. Hello everyone and welcome to the monthly cafe edition of June. Okay, I will let people in. So I have my kids today with me, so we will drink with them the coffee today. Thank you for joining. What's on the menu today? Sophia, can you? Okay, good. So the coffee of the day will be given by Thomas Candeal, presenting the learning on consumer food waste in the hospitality and mass catering sector. Then we have the time for questions, the testing notes, and of course, we will ask you to leave a tip for us in a small Slido. At the end, I will present the next month's specialties and see what's coming in the next monthly Cafe Talks. And with this, Thomas, save me. I will turn off my microphone and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Luminata, and both Sophia and the WASTELESS team for inviting me to present about my field of expertise. So let me share my screen, which is my field of expertise being consumer food waste in the hospitality and food service sectors. More precisely, I'm working as a project manager within the International Food Waste Coalition, which is a sub-program of WRAP Europe. So we are working to support hotel groups and mass catering companies to reduce their food waste. On the right-hand side, you have a little apricot tree that is trying to raise. And that's just to illustrate, it resonates to me because once you try to do yourself this little production of apricot, you realize from the pit of the apricot until you get the fruit, how much time and care you have to put there on almost a daily basis. And so once you realize that it's like even more concrete and obvious the value you make trying to reduce food waste. So that was the little introduction, and here it's the agenda. So very quickly, we'll try to define consumer food waste. Then we'll analyze consumer food waste in the food services. So as I told you, from my experience, more precisely in hotels and collective restaurants. And we'll try to share some tips on measurement and monitoring because we are in the wasteless talk, and also the learnings from the action implemented to reduce consumer food waste. And then we welcome your questions. So here's a slide. I'm not going to read all the figures there, but that's the first message to say that consumer food waste is happening at the end of the chain when the food reaches consumers. Therefore, the food waste that is happening there embeds all the resources necessary to produce, but also to transform, transport, store the food appropriately. And therefore, when it's wasted at consumption stage, it has all these natural resources and work embedded, and so it has more negative impacts. So saving the food at consumption stage, it's actually a priority, and it can generate higher benefit than saving food anywhere else along the value chain. This is why it's important. You can see on the slides the impacts in terms of CO2, water consumption, but also global resource use. And just I've been using the EU food waste prevention calculator to do that. And this is a slide from the BCG showing like the difference of the share of food waste happening at consumption stage when it's measured in terms of kilogram in the graph that is above, and in the graph that is below when it's measured in terms of dollars. So financially speaking, it's also at consumption stage that food has the most value. So food waste at consumption stage, it's mostly generated by households, but you have also a small part generated by restaurant and food services. And so it's not all the restaurant and food services that generate the consumer food waste, but specifically what is called the plate waste. So it's excluding all the activities from the kitchen that is pre-consumer waste to prepare the food. So today, when we talk about food waste from consumers in hotels and restaurants, we talk about plate waste, basically. So we exclude this in-home food waste from consumers, and we focus on this out of home. And we see that actually on the total consumer food waste out of home, it's only 10%. So roughly the estimate will be for Europe at 6 kilograms per year and per capita that is wasted as a plate waste in the food services. But yeah, that's not as much as the 72 kilograms per capita and per year in homes. But still, if we consider that we all waste 6 kilograms of food per year, that's quite a lot, even out of home. And mostly it's about the waste there, it's about side dishes, so carbs and vegetables. So here it's to give you more precise idea about the level of plate waste, so consumer food waste in the mass catering sector. So the mass catering sector being the restaurant in corporate or in education site, in schools, in health like hospitals, or in the sector of care like elderly homes. We estimate that plate waste represents around 43% of all the food waste of the sector. So that's roughly equivalent to 30 grams per cover. But these figures come from 7,700 reporting sites. These are the sites that also report the plate waste. So it's 65% of the total number of sites we collect the data from within IFWC. And so it's influenced by the food waste at corporate level because they represent more than 30% of this database. This is why this 30 gram per cover on average, it can be also taken into account that sometimes we measure much higher food plate waste level, like between 50 to 80 grams in corporate and schools, and sometimes even more than 100 grams per cover in the healthcare sites. Also important to keep in mind that edible and inedible part of plate waste are not to be considered the same, of course. Inedible parts are not a priority. And reducing them is not a goal in se. So 85% of the plate waste in the mass catering sector is considered edible. So when we talk about plate waste, we focus on this 85%, and we still have potential for reduction. What are the learnings? Well, when first, it's important if we want to be able to monitor and measure the plate waste in schools or in corporate sites. For example, to ask consumers to segregate the food waste for their plate waste themselves. That's helping the people working at the dishwashing area, and that's also making just feasible the right measurement of plate waste. Then once a year, try to have this complex or more complicated weighing system of segregating edible and inedible parts. So you get a ratio that is going to inform if plate waste is mostly edible or not. Usually it is. And then in terms of the learning from action to reduce plate waste, first, in corporate restaurant, for example, 85% of consumers have little or no plate waste usually. So that means that the most important part of plate waste is coming from a small part of the consumers, which we call high wasters. And these high wasters very often they tend to waste systematically or very often. So targeting action to them would be much more effective than just having general awareness raising campaign or communication on generic messages to reduce consumer food waste. It's about understanding why the waste, who they are. Usually, the main reason why food is being wasted is due to too big portion served in this mass catering restaurant. So for that, encouraging communication with the service staff is important, or also trying to nudge consumers to serve themselves the right portion. But we've seen that displaying posters on social or even dynamic social norms didn't really work. It was not the right channel to communicate with consumers and change their behaviors. So trying to have the control over portion through effective communication with staff is actually the one thing that is really to be encouraged. In school context, trying to complement with changing the environment with more gamification and challenges and rewards can help. So we had an example of a school reducing food waste from 55 grams per cover to 36 grams per cover over a week, thanks to a challenge where you had games and activities and rewards that really help the kids to act. In hotels, we have much less data available. So we have 2,500 sites compared to the more than 7,000 in the mass catering sector. And here also, they don't report separately the plate waste. So that means that the plate waste figures that we have are coming from either the literature review or some pilots that we have, around 10 pilots this year. And so this is less accurate and also less representative of the reality, but still provide for us an estimate to start to work with. There, the difference is that the edible portion tend to be a bit less. Of course, that's going to fluctuate depending on the type of hotels and restaurants. On average, the global food waste for the hotels it's 176 grams per cover. And from this, the figures that we have are quite similar to the one in the mass catering, between, let's say, 40 to 50% would be plate waste. So for us, that's an average of 45 grams per cover of plate waste, but that really varies. Again, we can have 15 grams per cover in a breakfast only hotel, and up to 400 grams per cover, even more sometimes in hotels that are more all-inclusive resort hotel. So yeah, the difference here, it makes quite complicated to have general conclusion. But what we can say also, and here I'm just focusing on one thing, when we measure plate waste in hotels, we can see that with the same hotel, we can have either 45 grams or 90 grams, and both figures are right. It's just that the calculation method for deriving the plate waste in gram per cover is not the same. In one case, for 45 grams, we use all the kilograms of plate waste measured, and we divide by all the number of meals that are served. So breakfast, lunch, and dinner. In the other, we take the average of the plate waste for the breakfast, the average of plate waste for the lunch, and the average of plate waste for the dinner. And that really changes the figures because the patterns of plate waste at breakfast are usually much lower than plate waste at lunch or dinner. But that again depends on the sites. So it's just to highlight the fact that actually the measurement methodology and how you report your plate waste is going to impact how you can analyze and the conclusion that you make. The tips for proper segregation of plate waste, because that's really a challenge. As I told you, we have not a lot of sites that report plate waste separately. It's first to avoid single-use packaging, napkins, sauces, yogurts, because they get into the plate. And then for the waiters and waitresses, it's very hard to get rid of them when separating food waste. It's less easy to ask consumers to segregate themselves the food waste, but also provide a training for the waiters and waitresses with specific process, provide adapted tools and methods. So when they clear the tables, they have the means to actually put the plate waste in a separate container, bins or bag. The factors in hotel that can impact food waste or specifically plate waste, of course, the environment, the marketing, it's a lot. Like when you have all you can eat buffet is not the same as when you are served à la carte, for example. That usually tends to minimize plate waste, provided that you pay attention to the portion you're serving and you know your customers. So that's an important message. Like the environment is going to affect a lot, but there are many different variables that or factors that influence the plate waste. The learning from the reduction action in hotels is that the plate size usually make a difference for buffet. Having signs on tables, but also nudge on the buffet can also help reduce in the similar portion of 20% reduction. What has been really working in context of hotels with tourism for families and in tourist sector would be challenges where the family is rewarded when meal is over without plate waste as a form of game, and then a reward for the kids. So the big conclusion, I'm sorry, I know I took extra minutes there for the presentation, but if you want to reduce consumer food waste, it's not about providing information exclusively, because that won't make enough to actually change people's behaviors. You also need to explain how to do that and provide an environment that is going to help them reduce food waste. So adopting a holistic approach and considering how the food is presented, how the food is served, what is the communication between the staff and the consumers is going to be very important. It should be a priority to reduce plate waste. It's influenced by portion size, culture, but also, as we have said, by the environment and the marketing and how we serve and present the food. And monitoring plate waste over time requires standard in terms of measurement and reporting methodology. That's important, and that's a place where Wasteless is going to help, and other activities in Europe also are trying to provide more standardization of these practices. Yeah, thank you very much, and I hope that it's been interesting for you all. I welcome any questions.
Thank you very much, Thomas. Yes, indeed, it was very interesting. Don't worry about taking more minutes. So now it's time for the questions. If you have a question, you can open your microphone and ask, or you can write it in the chat. And we already have a question actually in the chat, which is related to something that I also wanted to ask. Could waste at school health and care segment be indexed to the quality of food served?
Yes, of course it is. That's usually not the main reason for food waste. The main reason still being the portion. But of course, the quality of the food is a very important reason for explaining food waste. And so here there are several things that explain in the healthcare sector and education why sometimes the taste is an issue. Sometimes the food is produced in advance, so 2 to 3 days in advance before being delivered to sites, so it's less fresh. And also, uh, it's both in healthcare sector but also in schools. These are consumers that are yeah, it's complicated to anticipate their taste, and very often the budget for providing the meal there is not so important, and this is why, yeah, the quality is an issue there.
Yeah, indeed. Any other questions? Or maybe I can ask a question, because for me, I see that one way to reduce the food waste is to reduce the portions. But what do the restaurants say about it? Because this might be seen by the customers like a fact that will make their decision to go to that restaurant, like if they are used with something which is reduced, what do the restaurants say about it?
Yeah, so if we take one extreme, so people, they can pay a lot to access a buffet that is huge with very different things there and plenty of them. And usually when they have that, they feel like they want to test and try everything. And so usually plate waste is going up. So how can we make sure that the portion provided is the right one without limiting the consumers? So I guess that communication around the quality of food that you serve, and also trying to have information on what actually matters for the consumers in terms of what they want to taste and the kind of food that they want to eat will help. Um, and to complement the aspects around quality, um, proposing different portions is so changing the plate size, or just on the um, on the on the pricing to have different portion option, with higher portion being more expensive, could be a way to go, but that's much more complicated to handle. And this is why it's not so used, but I think it would be very effective. That requires a specific organization to take the order, to also to produce the food. So that's complicated. It comes with also higher costs, and sometimes because the food costs are still less expensive than the labor cost, it's not so possible to implement such solutions. Um, and then the cultural shift from we have this trend of Instagram showing very huge buffet and people getting there to have this kind of abundance. That's also something that can be changed when we focus on healthy diet and responsible behaviors from consumers. So that's also linked to a cultural shift that we uh, try to launch.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't know. I think it's time to move to the Slido. Thank you very much. There are some comments in the chat. Thomas, if you can address them, it will be nice during the Slido, but now I give the talk to Sophia. Thank you very much, Thomas.
Thank you all.
Okay. So just a small tip today. Let's go to the Slido. Please scan the QR code or join in slido.com and write the code there. And the first question is describe in a word your take-home message. We really appreciate if you can participate in our Slido. A small tip. Yes, and smaller plates, enough portions, complexity is clear, the message, the take-home message here. So we still have 2 participants typing. Okay, I will wait. Thank you very much. So I will move on now. Because the moment I will move on, you cannot write anything else. Okay, thank you for the 9th participant. So, and now, if I can, okay, so now it's just how do you rate Monthly Cafe Talk 2nd edition so far? And the 9th participant, I think, does not want to give his opinion or her opinion. So I think, Luminita, you can move on.
Yes, thank you very much also for engaging with us in the Slido and giving the tip. Because the talk was also about the restaurants, Horeca, and so. Okay, now it's just the time to announce the next monthly cafe talks. We have one more until the summer break. On the 18th of July, we wait for you to drink your coffee with us and with Erika van Herpen, which will present the AI to the rescue, a novel approach to measure plate leftovers. Then we have the summer break, and we will then come back in September with the new Cafe Talk, and we will continue until December. So stay with us, follow Wasteless, and we wait for you in the next Cafe Talks. And with this, I'm finished. Thank you very much.